welcome. You are in for, well, a really fascinating exploration today.
Yeah.
We're doing a deep dive into the story of Howard Schultz, the visionary behind Starbucks.
Hmm.
His journey is quite something, growing up in the Brooklyn projects, ending up running this massive global brand.
It really is. And it kind of underscores that idea, doesn't it? That where you start out doesn't have to limit where you finish.
Exactly. And we'll be digging into some detailed notes we have on his career, plus some examples of how these stories get framed. The goal is to really understand those turning points, what drove his success.
Yeah, and what strikes me right away looking at the material is this powerful mix of ambition and seizing opportunity.
Right.
The sources let us trace those key moments, those influences and decisions that really propelled him.
So not just what happened, but how it happened.
Precisely. We want to look at the strategies, the mindset. We maybe find some insights that, you could apply elsewhere.
Okay, let's dive in, starting right at the beginning. Canarsie Housing Projects, Brooklyn, New York. Schultz was born there in 1953.
And the notes, they paint a pretty clear picture. Small apartments, families really scraping by, not a lot of extras, definitely no financial cushion.
And that hit close to home for him, didn't it? His father being a truck driver.
Yeah, and then suffering a serious injury. The sources really emphasize this. He lost his job, and there was just nothing. No compensation, no benefits.
Wow.
That experience, you can see how it would shape you. It seems to have given Schultz this really deep understanding of economic insecurity.
And probably fueled his determination to build something more stable.
Almost certainly. That drive for something better, it seems foundational. And it led him towards education. He managed to get a football scholarship, which is how he got to Northern Michigan University.
That must have been huge.
Oh, definitely. A significant turning point. He was the first in his family to go to college. Think about that, breaking that cycle.
And he studied communications, which is interesting, right? Even then, maybe thinking about connecting with people.
It suggests an awareness, doesn't it? That understanding people, connecting, would be important. Skills you absolutely need to build a brand like Starbucks later on.
And football itself. The notes mention lessons there, too.
Right. Teamwork, discipline, leadership, classic sports lessons, but clearly ones he took to heart.
But it wasn't all easy. There's mention of him feeling a bit like an outsider.
Yeah, which might have just added fuel to the fire, That feeling of needing to work harder, prove yourself, that could be a really powerful motivator.
It often is. That feeling of needing to overcome something extra. So after college, he gets into sales. Xerox is mentioned.
He did a stint there, but the sources kind of hint he was still searching, hadn't quite found the right fit.
Until Starbucks.
This small company in Seattle, just selling coffee beans at the time. Nothing like what we know today.
And he joins them in 1982, director of marketing.
Yeah, and even back then, just selling beans, he apparently saw something more.
More than just a commodity.
Exactly. He saw coffee as, like, an experience. A lifestyle, almost, even before the cafes.
That's pretty insightful, seeing beyond the actual product so early on.
It really is. That ability to see the bigger picture, the emotional connection, that's often what sets innovators apart. And that vision really clicked into place on that trip he took.
Ah, yes. The famous Milan trip.
Yeah, that seems to have been a genuine aha moment.
He goes there and sees these Italian cafes. What did he see exactly?
Well, he saw places that were buzzing. People weren't just grabbing coffee and leaving. They were gathering, talking, connecting, enjoying espresso, sure. But it was about the atmosphere.
Community hubs?
Exactly. A sense of community, belonging. It was woven into daily life. And the sources say he just had this flash of inspiration, bring that culture, that feeling to the U.S.
But the Starbucks founders at the time, they weren't so keen.
No, they wanted to stick to their knitting, basically. Keep selling beans.
Yeah.
They were skeptical about the whole cafe idea.
Which must have been frustrating for Schultz, having seen this potential.
Immensely frustrating, I imagine. And that difference in vision, it led him to make a really bold move.
He left.
He left Starbucks in 1985, decided to pursue his own vision, starting a company called Il Giornale, named after the Italian daily paper, inspired directly by those Milanese cafes.
But starting a business is tough. Getting funding.
Oh, incredibly tough. The notes highlight this vividly. He faced rejection after rejection. Over 200 investors apparently said no.
200? That's, wow. How do you keep going after that?
It says so much about his resilience, doesn't it? And just how deeply he believed in this dream. It wasn't just a business plan. It felt like a calling for him.
That unwavering belief.
And eventually, that persistence paid off. He scraped together enough investment to get Il Giornale off the ground and start growing it.
And then things took another turn. Starbucks itself came up for sale.
Right, just a couple of years later, in 1987, an opportunity arose.
And he saw his chance. A big risk, though, surely, to buy the company he'd left.
A huge risk.
Hmm.
But he went for it, bought Starbucks, merged it with Il Giornale, and that was the moment the transformation really kicked into high gear, from just selling beans to building this cafe empire.
And he brought his vision with him, that third place idea.
Absolutely, creating these comfortable, welcoming spaces. Not home, not work, but somewhere in between where people could connect.
And he focused on the people inside the company too, right? The benefits.
Yes, and this was really significant, offering things like health insurance, stock options even for part-time employees, the baristas. That was pretty radical for retail back then.
You have to think that made a difference, investing in your people like that.
The sources suggest a strong link. That focus on people, on creating a positive work environment, likely played a big part in Starbucks' explosive growth. You know, going from just 11 stores then to, well, thousands globally now. It wasn't just about coffee. It was the experience created by the people.
But even with all that success, it wasn't always smooth sailing. The 2008 financial crisis hit them hard, didn't it?
It did. Big challenges. And interestingly, Schultz actually came back as CEO then, after having stepped away for a while.
To steer the ship through the storm.
Pretty much. And his strategy then, it involved some tough calls, closing stores that weren't performing well, but also, crucially, refocusing.
Refocusing on what?
On the core things. Quality, the customer experience, reinvesting in the company culture, those values he built it on.
It sounds like a lesson in remembering your why during tough times.
Exactly. The sources point to that when things get difficult, you go back to your original purpose, your core principles.
So if we try to boil it down, looking at his whole journey, what are the big takeaways? What lessons jump out from the sources?
Well, a few key things stand out. First, definitely dream big. You know, don't let your starting point define your limits.
Okay, dream big. What else?
Resilience. The sheer tenacity to keep going despite setbacks, despite all those rejections, that's crucial.
Never give up, basically.
Pretty much. And third, leading with heart. Caring about your people, employees, customers, and the wider community. That seems central to his philosophy.
Right, the people focus.
And finally, staying true to your values. Especially when it's hard, when pressures are mounting. Don't compromise on your core principles.
It makes his success seem about more than just, money or expansion.
Yeah, the narrative suggests it's also about trying to make a positive impact, building something meaningful.
And he seems to have articulated this himself. We have that quote in the notes.
Ah, yes, the one about being reactive or proactive.
That's the one. In life, you can either be reactive or proactive. You can wait for things to happen, or you can make things happen. His life really seems to embody the make things happen part.
Absolutely. It's a perfect summary of his approach. And there's another quote, too, about social responsibility.
Which one's that?
You can't be successful in business without being socially responsible. That shows the belief that business and doing good aren't separate things. They should go together.
That's a powerful idea. So as we wrap up this deep dive, that core message from the projects to global brand, it's pretty inspiring, isn't it?
It really is. It's a potent reminder that your background doesn't write your future. Potential is everywhere.
And the lessons learned, the vision, the resilience, the focus on people, you can see how those could apply in so many areas of life, not just business.
Definitely resonate broadly. It's about how you approach challenges and opportunities.
Absolutely. So maybe something for you listening to take away: keep believing, keep pushing forward, don't be afraid to dream big.
Well said.
Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive on Howard Schultz. If you found this story inspiring, maybe like, subscribe, share it, let others hear it too.
And you can always check out our previous deep dives for other stories.
For sure. Until next time, keep dreaming big and, well, keep being amazing.